So you say you're launching your website soon?
Yeah, my private practice. Yeah, and I don't know if I told you, but I started working with couples.
No.
Yeah, so I've been
What's
doing
that?
couples.
Okay.
I've been doing couples therapy
Yeah.
and started working with couples. I'm working with 2 couples right now, and that's been really great because it's different from working with students and just working with one specific population where it can get mundane and boring. But couples are just
Crazy.
They're lighting me up. They're lighting me up, and I'm learning so much from them and about relationships from a different lens, and you get to see how, like, your life experiences and who you are as an individual, what that looks like in the context of a relationship, because they're 2 people trying to coexist, like to exist together, and they still have their own individual stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And so,
I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I wanted to have a conversation with you, similar to all of my friends. It's important in this season, I think, to showcase the complexities of Black women, the differences that I have with all of my friends, but also what brings us all together is the fact that we have similarities. And I think the biggest thing that's always made us super connected is how similar we are as it pertains to taking care of ourselves, understanding the importance of therapy, wellness, and you capture all of that. You're kind of like you're my calm during stormy moments. And I could do all the intros, but I wanted you to tell people a little bit about you and what you do, and then we'll go into the conversation.
Yes, so my name is Makando. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm also a yoga instructor and a certified sex therapist. And so all of that is all done to support people in their healing. I work at UCLA currently, but I'm starting my private practice called Selah, where it's intended to essentially address trauma from the whole body perspective. So the trainings that I have were intentionally done to not just address trauma from a top-down lens, because in talk therapy, you're just cognitively really processing things. And so with yoga, it allows for that somatic piece where we're now interconnecting the mind and the body. A lot of us don't know that those things are disjointed. And we're moving through life. And one of the questions I always get at work is like, how do I know if it's the right decision for me? And what I try to do in therapy and help my clients learn is how to listen to their body.
And I think you've helped me learn that a little bit more. To your point, I always thought it was separate. I always thought there was like a disconnect between just like how you mentally feel and then how it shows up in your body. And now I think we've had several conversations where I now look for the signs and the warnings where my body's like, Tope, you are not okay. So what would you say some of those like immediate signs would be for other people to let them know that they're not okay?
So in mental health, we're calling them symptoms, right? And then you see those clinical diagnoses like depression, anxiety, but those symptoms are the signs, right? So if you notice that you're having trouble sleeping, insomnia, that's a big personal one for me. If I start losing my sleep because I'm just thinking and my dreams are just thoughts, and then you wake up tired. So fatigue, right? Then there's wake up tired. And then
is that because I'm not, is that?
You're not sleeping.
No, okay, all right, wow.
But there's also the difference between rest and recovery, right? Rest is a pause, recovery is long term, right? So for instance, taking a nap could be rest, but if you still wake up tired from that nap, you probably need more recovery activities.
Got it, that makes sense. My husband naps every day. And he has more energy than me every single day. And I think we need to bring back naps.
Bring back naps.
Adult naps.
And some other signs too, irritability. Sometimes food, it could be overeating or undereating. Sometimes we use food to cope with what we're feeling. Some like physiological symptoms, headaches.
You're naming a lot of things. I feel attacked. And like in those, in that season where you realize that your body's showing up all these signs, right? So if you're under eating, overeating, you're not sleeping, how do you course correct? Do you just rest knowing that you might still wake up tired and burnt out? What does that look like?
I also want to be mindful not to just give a script because everyone is uniquely wired and what they need looks different. And also context matters, right? So these physiological symptoms I'm describing might just be in context to feeling stressed. You could go to a social setting and feel a lot of things, and maybe that's your body telling you there's something here that doesn't feel safe. But I think it's first understanding what's going on and then what you need to course correct. So, for example, if I'll just use a low impact example. I'll use myself because I can only talk about myself.
Feel free to use me as an example. You know me.
So for instance, here's one thing. So if your rest or your recovery is like, I'm going to take a vacation, I'm going to take a trip.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. That's what I do.
That's what you do. When you're taking that trip, are you filling your trip with more stuff to do? Or are you actually intentionally doing things that will recover you emotionally, mentally, spiritually?
Yeah.
Right? Where it's filling your cup back up in a way that when you wake up, you feel lighter. So that's the embodiment piece. You have to pay attention to what you're doing and what it's doing for your body as well.
Got it.
So when you engage in that activity, do you feel a little less stressed? Do you feel a little lighter? Do you feel a little more awake?
And I think that's a great example, because I think you had said something to me a while ago where it's just like, when are you gonna rest?
Yeah.
And then shortly after, I decided to go and rest via vacation, because to me, vacations equal a rest.
Yeah.
And all I did was I worked out and I went to the spa.
Yeah.
So to your point that you made earlier, I started filling my rest time with things that truly brought me to rest. So for example, I needed my body massaged, right, to get the tension out.
Yes.
So I think I got a massage every day for 5 days.
Yes.
But I also worked out because I knew that I had created this level of distress with my actual body. So it was a nice blend of, I was working out to get all the energy out, to release all the energy.
Yeah.
And then I got a massage to almost like thank me for releasing the energy.
Yeah.
So that's now how I create rest in my routine. Because, as a woman and as a Black woman, we hold so much trauma in our body.
Right.
And I only think in the last few years, we've started to vocalize that.
Right.
And why is that? Why do you think that's only happening now?
I think there's more conversations of people being transparent about their experiences as a Black woman and trauma. And I think there's a point where trauma itself shows up in a way that you cannot ignore it anymore. And I think what we're seeing and what we've seen as Black women is that part where I can't ignore it anymore. There's immense despair, right? There's immense dissatisfaction in life. Little things just start to poke at you in a way that you have to now stop and say, what's going on?
Yeah, what's
happening, right? Like, you buy that bag, you go shopping, you hang out with your friends, but you don't feel content, you don't feel happy with those things. And so these existential questions start to come up. And I think another way it shows up is in relationships, right? Someone is telling you there's something's going on, and now you have to really sit and look at yourself and figure out what is happening. So I think there's that piece. I also think just with mental health awareness, I feel like we're not feeling shame because there's someone there to say, hey, I've been there too. Yeah, it's okay to not be okay. Exactly. So I think there's still a lot of growth that can happen in that capacity and avenue, but I do think allowing ourselves to speak up, just one person saying I've had this experience and someone else saying me too, just creating more space for us to freely speak about what's going on.
I wonder if there's something about the African household.
Yeah, there is.
You being African, myself also being African. Yeah. And then let's add everyone into this, right? Black household. Yeah. I know Asians as well. I know the Asian culture, which I'm very close to and very aware of. There's these cultural norms or expectations rather that you shouldn't take care of yourself and you should just keep grinding. We did it. You've heard that saying, my generation was fine. No, your generation traumatized us. Your generation traumatized us. You're not fine. Yeah. Do you find that because everyone has these cultural expectations, that's what's stopping them from taking care of self?
Yes, I do think there's a lot of cultural layers in it with Black women, Black men, when they're expressing feelings of vulnerability, that's associated with weakness. And it's usually the negative emotions. Yeah. right? And then there's also the other part of it where I'm not feeling anything at all.
Numbness.
And some people can make the distinction that I know what numbness feels like. I know what it feels like to be numb. It's not numb. It's like I'm not experiencing these elated emotions of joy and excitement. And now it's like reframing those emotions as a strength and not a weakness.
Yeah.
Because what is it doing for you when you're not expressing those emotions? What's happening when you're not acknowledging what you're feeling?
Are you just harboring it into your body?
Right.
Is that typically what happens? It's like if you're not expressing it, you're just harboring it.
You're just harboring it. And also, one of the things I've come to see is like if you're not able to experience sadness, grief, all these heavy emotions, it's really hard to experience the ones on the other side. Joy, happiness.
Oh, I feel like you just gathered me.
Yes. So if there is a block that's getting in the way of you feeling to start with, then it's also hard to access the ones on the other side that you want to experience. So we have to move through the really heavy, dark, difficult ones to then be able to say, I feel at peace. But that process is hard.
I was going to say, it feels like that process is a little bit more complex than because you see people, right? You see people who, and I guess I'm now realizing it, they're optically appearing like they're okay.
Yes.
So again, Instagram, social media being the highlight reel, they appear to be okay, and then you hear that they committed suicide.
Exactly.
You hear that something drastic has happened, or they are depressed, and it's just like, but
what happened?
What happened? So is it the fact that they were masking, or they weren't processing the heavy and just optically appearing like they were okay?
Could be all of it. All of it. I don't think it's one size fits all. I don't think it's either or. I think it's all of it. I feel like when I recently had a session with a client and she said, I've been avoiding my thoughts. And so we had a breakthrough where I did sort of somatic awareness exercise and had her actually engage with what she was feeling and where she noticed it in her body. So one of the things I say is like, if you express emotion and you're like, I feel sad, I'll say, where do you notice that in your body? What does it feel like? They'll say, my heart. What do you notice in my heart? It feels heavy. What else do you notice? My throat. There's something stuck in my throat. So that's the body connection with the emotion, right? And then as you keep processing, I'll say, where's your heart now? It feels lighter. So then you see in real time that as you're processing your emotions, the body is also releasing some tension that it's holding. But to fast forward that so that I don't ramble too much, she used emotions like she felt disappointed and just shame. Shame was a big one. And she's a Black woman. She's African American. And so she said, I feel shame. And so as we talked about it even more, I said, how have you been avoiding your thoughts, right? She said, I'll go out, I'll party, not like excessively in a negative way, just normal day-to-day things. Shopping, and these are things that we do to distract ourselves from our feelings. And so by the end of it, I was like, it doesn't sound like you're avoiding your thoughts, you're avoiding your emotions. And what emotions are you avoiding? She said, the emotions that make me feel insecure. So then now we have to unpack what you feel insecure about in your life, right? And that's all a process. That doesn't happen in one session. I think there are things people are doing. I'm pro self-care, but sometimes I feel like self-care is just a Band-Aid. And you're not getting to the root.
So the shopping, the eating, the nails,
the things, I'm gonna go,
the men,
the yoga, the men, but it's a Band-Aid because you're not getting to the root. And so the things just keep coming back up. And then another thing is we don't create self-care activities that are sustainable over time, that you can do consistently. Like,
give us an example of, self-care routines that people can create that's sustainable. I'll take it a step further, that is free. Because think about the climate that we're in. Everyone can't pay for Pilates.
A walk.
A walk. Okay, I'm a walker.
A walk.
I'm a walker.
Walk with no music.
Oh, okay.
No sensory. Just go out. If you can find a walking trail, a beach. We're in LA, so we have a lot of outdoors. And don't take anything with you. Not your phone. You could leave it, well, you need your phone just in case, but turn it off.
Okay.
Don't listen to any music. I've started doing that lately, and that's really grounding because now I'm just in quiet.
Does it force you to listen to your thoughts? Is that why you're recommending the like no sound while you walk?
I think if you're experiencing, so here's another thing. If you're experiencing anxiety, for instance, you want to do things that slow you down.
Okay.
Right. So
I need to write this down, but I have this now.
to slow you down, I don't always, sometimes running doesn't help if you have a million things in your head. It's just sort of like, and sometimes people do run and it helps because it's helping them
that's
escape.
What runners say,
Yeah, it's helping them escape from whatever it is that they're running away from. So it could be just a physical way of doing that. So it just depends on who you are and what you need, but recognizing like, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I need to move my body. So what will help me slow down? It could be a walk. It could be as simple as waking up to a warm glass of tea and playing some slow tunes.
That's why Brits drink tea all the time.
Yeah.
To just calm the nerves.
Exactly.
I knew there was a method to our madness. I knew that. Question just kind of, like you're saying all the things that I feel like I do. So I'm going to make this a personal question now.
Yeah.
What do you do when you can't stop crying? What is your body telling you? What are those signals? What are those signs? Like, yes, you're crying, but what does that translate to when you can't stop crying? What is your body telling you?
What is your body telling you when you can't stop
I don't
crying?
know. That's a lie. I think, no, that's actually a lie. I think I'm more in tune with my body than I've ever been. I think post having a child, I'm just more cognizant of signs and signals. Like, am I depressed? Am I in postpartum? But when I cry, it's because I want to release. But then I'm like, is that the only reason? So recently, I was like in tears.
Yeah.
But I realized I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, I was so exhausted, I cried. And in the moment when I cried, I stopped, I paused, I did something you always tell me to do, like I paused and I was like, are you crying because you're exhausted, overwhelmed, or unsupported? And then I had to bucket those emotions and be like, okay, if you are feeling unsupported,
right,
what can your community, your friends, your family do to support you? So
right.
I reached out to my family.
Right.
If you are burnt out, what can you do from a professional, personal standpoint to ensure?
Right.
So I'm more cognizant that like sometimes my tears are telling me something,
right.
like pause, find out why. But sometimes I'm in the air, like I'm on a plane all the time. I just finished watching a movie and I'm like
crying out of
bawling for no reason.
Yeah.
Why?
What was the context of the movie you were watching?
A romance, a rom-com, a horror, name something. I was just crying. And like, sometimes I do know it's still a release.
Yeah.
I think it's like all the bottled up feelings and emotions
right.
coming out. And then sometimes it's funny and I'm crying.
Yeah.
So I feel like I either have to trust my body to say, hey, your body's trying to tell you something. But I also want to ask you, like, am I overthinking the tears?
No, I don't think you're overthinking the tears. I think you're right. Your tears are releasing something.
Okay. All the time. They're always releasing
They're
something.
releasing something.
Okay.
And depending on what it is, and I love how you said I pause and I ask myself, what is going on? What do these tears mean? Right? Because there are tears of joy.
Yeah. Okay.
There are also tears of grief. Right? There's also tears of releasing whatever emotional baggage that you need to release. I think anything that is associated with water is cleansing and necessary.
I'm going to start thinking about it like that, actually.
Yeah. So releasing the tears, like you said, is your way of emoting whatever emotion is there, but it's also cleansing. If you think about water, when you take a bath or you go swimming, there's something about that just feels like you're washing something away, and then you're coming back into that space again a little bit lighter. So
I like that.
I do think tears are therapeutic, they're necessary.
Okay.
And there is tearfulness, crying spells that could be associated with depression. But I think that has to accompany some feelings of despair in some extent. But also you could be crying all the time if you just lost somebody.
Yeah.
You could also be crying all the time if you feel you've lost a sense of self.
Say that again.
You could also be crying all the time if you feel like you've lost a sense of self. Grief is not just associated with death. You could be grieving the life you thought you could have had. You could be grieving the life that you thought you should have. You'd be grieving so many different things in life.
No, do you know what that hit me?
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need to like compose myself. I lost not my therapist, I lost my doctor last week.
Yeah.
And that made me cry. But it took a week.
Yeah.
It took like a whole week for me to realize that like, girl, you can't just keep working.
Yeah.
You have to process
Yes.
the fact that someone who took care of you isn't here.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah.
And how has that been for you?
Hard.
Yeah. And I know how important it is for you to be taken care of and to trust people to take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you think that like doctors are exempt.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like I joke and I was speaking to one of my girlfriends about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, doctors aren't allowed to die.
Yeah.
You guys take care of people. Like one thing God should do is like take care of you. And if the person who was taking care of you, like everyone takes care of you. If the person who was supposed to take care of you passes away.
Yeah. Then fear. Now
You're afraid. So I'm working through that. Old me would have just been like, it's life.
Yeah.
New me's like, no, like
Yeah.
this is not okay.
Right.
So I'll be fine eventually.
Yeah.
I just have to like process
Right.
and allow myself to feel.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's the season I'm in. I'm like,
Just feel.
you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully she's in a better place.
And now what I see your tears are doing is allowing you to just release what you're feeling in this moment.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. I would have thought.
Who would have thought? I feel like I cry every time we see each other.
Yeah.
Is it the fact that you're a therapist? Is that why? Do you just make people cry?
I hope not. I hope not. I think the older I get, the more I start to see the gift I have.
Yeah. No, you have such a gift.
Yeah.
That I think you're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, I've resisted it for long enough.
You have. I don't know what. Again, I don't know the reasons, only you do. But for the longest time I've known you, you were shrinking. No, you were shrinking, and when I say shrinking, like you were incredibly smart. You are incredibly smart.
Yeah.
But you bucketed yourself into this is all I can be.
Yeah.
And I'm watching you like, girl, you touch lives, you touch individuals, you change lives.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really happy to know that you're in this season where you're like choosing you and doing the things that's on your bucket list.
Yeah.
You know, you now are setting up your own practice. Like let me know how I can support. I will
be sharing it with you when it's ready.
Okay. Because you know, we all have a network and your network is your network.
Yes.
I'm excited to share that with the world because you are just a gem.
Thank you.
A bubble of knowledge. And I don't think there's enough Black women who care about others in general to share some of the wisdom you have. So thank you. Keep doing it.
Thanks.
And then I have two more questions and I'll let you go. It's what would be your self-care tip? I don't even know what your self-care routine or tip is.
Oh man, it depends on the week, but I have a routine. So what my go-to things are, I go to the gym, I exercise, and
You go to the gym every day.
I go to the gym every day.
We can tell.
Go to the gym, Pilates. You put me on walking, 10K, still
10K
going.
minimum.
It's
Good.
still going.
Good.
And that's my default actually on my really long days or when I'm physically exhausted. So I've learned to menstrual cycle and like work out in accordance with that.
Oh, good.
So, you know, when you're ovulating, you're a little bit more tired. So around those times, that's when I slow down and walk.
Got it. And walk.
Yoga,
Yeah, that's what I do.
Stretching, because at that point I'm like, I don't have it in me to be lifting any weights.
Yeah.
Another thing that I do is I journal. Okay. So I also know when I'm having a lot of racing thoughts, that means there's a lot in my head and I need to take it out and put it on a bucket somewhere else. So I write it on paper and just leave it there. I have my own therapist.
Oh yeah, I heard that. I think every therapist has a therapist, right?
We hope.
No, I thought that was a requirement that every therapist had a therapist.
It's not a requirement.
Oh.
Well, MFTs, so I'm a social worker, but
Okay.
MFTs in their training, which I wish social workers were encouraged to do.
Yeah.
But I think social workers, because it's more broad,
Yeah.
not everyone is going to be a therapist if they go to get a
Okay.
master's in social work, but at MFT, you're definitely going to be a therapist.
Okay.
They require you to start seeing a therapist somewhere in your educational journey,
Okay, got it.
which is great. So it wasn't until I started working and I was getting supervision, and my supervisor was like, "Have you ever been to therapy yourself?" I'm like, how am I how am I doing my job and never been a patient?
Yeah.
And that's when I started going to therapy.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So journal.
Journal,
Therapy.
Being aware of what type of things I'm doing in my day to day. There's some activities that drain me and people that drain me.
Say that again. There are
Yeah.
people that are draining.
There's some people in your life that when you're around them, and it's not even like they're bad people, but when you're around them, there's something about maybe the way they talk, the things they share that can be exhausting. And there's some people in your life that bring you joy. And I know which one of my friends those are.
Yeah.
And I spend time with them when I feel really low and heavy. I will intentionally be like, hey, let me go hang out with this friend, because I know when I'm around them, my spirit is just full.
Yeah.
And there are other friends where, because of who I am their counselor, I am their therapist. It's more problems and it's not a break from work.
Okay.
So there's that. And then food. I also am very mindful of what I eat.
Mm-hmm.
There's some food, when you eat it, you're heavy.
Yeah.
And so that's the body piece. Just knowing how things make you feel and doing things that feel good. And I don't say that lightly. Do things that feel
Good.
good.
And make you feel good.
And make you feel good. And pay attention to the things that make you feel bad. Sometimes sex doesn't make you feel good, but you're doing it.
We might have to have a part 2, because we didn't even get into. You can't just drop. Sometimes sex makes you feel bad.
Listen.
And we end there. So we might have to have a part 2.
Yes.
Thank you so much for just this moment, this
Yeah.
space to be, and for sharing so many tips that I'm sure will be helpful to anyone listening in. And I keep saying this to all my friends. I want us to live long.
Yes.
So I appreciate that we're all living our life to a T.
I love that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.